families with younger kids, we all wonder what that next phase is going to look like for us. There are so many things that are undocumented. When my brother and I received our diagnosis in 1995, I was 10 years old, and we were given that patients with classical homocystinuria, it's estimated they live to see 30, and it would be too dangerous to have children. And I've done those things. And so right now we're living in unprecedented times of, we're moving things forward for the next generation, not knowing what it's going to look like for them or for ourselves. We hope that with all of the things that we're doing and accomplishing, it will make it that much easier for the next generation of patients. And so I'm really excited to be able to talk with Adam and Alex and their moms, Annette and Barb, about their experience of aging with homocystinuria. This is such an exciting panel for me because they are all so incredibly inspiring. I've asked Annette, so Adam has a book that's been written about him called Annette Settle. Well, no day wasted, Annette Settle story. And there's a part in this book, I recommend everyone read it because it's just very inspiring and uplifting. But there's a part in here that Annette, it's a quote from Annette, and I've asked her to read it because I think it kind of sets the stage for our discussion today. So Annette, if you don't mind opening with that.
With his desire to be normal, to overcome, to not be hampered by his medical condition, Adam wanted to try everything. He got hurt along the way, but that didn't slow him down. No matter how many bumps and bruises Adam endured, he quickly bounced back, ready for the next new experience. The frequent goose eggs to his head made his brothers and sisters worry about him. They and their friends wanted to protect him, wanted to put a fence around him. They never knew when they might lose him to the disease. I, on the other hand, kept saying, God made it very clear to me. Adam was not to be boxed up or bubbled up. He is here for a purpose, and we need to let it go.
And that's exactly what Annette said. I'm not going to launch into spiel about Alex or Adam and how amazing they are. You'll get to hear about that today from them, but they're both blazing the way for patients, and what they have accomplished is incredible. So I would like Adam and Alex just to start off just telling us where you're from, how old you are, and kind of just some things that you enjoyed, and then go into the other questions. So Alex, do you mind starting for us?
Sure. Hi. Hello. Well, thanks for having me here first, to Danae and everyone. It's a pleasure to be here and an honor to be here. My name is Alex Levine. Alex Orange Drink, as I'm known on the stage when I'm doing dances. I do little dances. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, 1987, with classical homocystinuria. Similar, at the time of the diagnosis, they said the life expectancy was probably not over 30, right? And it was a very very different perspective to where we're at right now, which is good, which is start.
Adam, can you tell us a little bit about you, how old you are, what kind of homocystinuria you have, and maybe a couple things about you that most people aren't going to know in this room quite yet?
Yeah, sure. First of all, my name is Annette Settle, and I'm from Pennsylvania, central Pennsylvania, by the way. Just 30 minutes about north of Gettysburg. And I'm 24 years old, and whenever I was born, the doctor said I wasn't supposed to live past the first week. Then they said the oldest living was 16, and now I'm 24. So.
Can you tell them kind of what you do, for the shop right now?
Yeah, sure. Right now I'm a missionary preparing to move to the Middle East. And one thing that's so cool is I was just there for 6 weeks on an internship, and I got to meet a doctor there that knows my disease, that knows the disease, and that would know how to take care of me if something would happen.
So Adam's like our traveling ambassador for Cobalamin C. He's met families in, Indiana, Texas, Arizona, now overseas. Everywhere he goes, he gets to meet someone. It's been really fun working with him in that aspect. I'm going to start with a question here for their parents, Annette and Barb. Can you talk to us a little bit about, what resources were available when you got the diagnosis for Adam and Alex, and how you managed to cope within that?
Well, when he was born in, say, 87, there was really no resources except PKU community, and so we sort of depended on them for food referrals and formula referrals, but they really didn't include Homocystinuria as part of their community. We just sort of forged there and kind of, made our way into like ordering their cookbooks and their PKU news, and that's where we got all our information. There was nothing related to Homocystinuria. There was really no food at all, basically. The world was different, right? So you couldn't just go to a deli and get food. There was no low-protein snacks or anything. Now it's really a different world, and it's great for them. And as far as medical resources, the doctors didn't really know exactly what was going to happen. I happened to end up with a really great doctor who gave me hope right from the start. She said Alex will be a normal kid, just on a special diet, and that really got me through the whole thing. And that was very early, so I was really lucky. I had that, and I had a lot of denial mechanisms and coping mechanisms that helped me through. But as far as resources for Homocystinuria, there was really very little. There was a picnic eventually, but I think it was a PKU and Homocystinuria picnic that they had annually. And Alex really wasn't so interested in going to that. After we went, I think, 2 times, he did not like that. And so we stopped doing that. And that was about it.
And your old medical journals were scary too.
And my own, physician. So when I heard that he had Homocystinuria, it was like, wait, what's that? And then I looked it up, and it wasn't good news, right? So I really didn't know a lot about what was going to happen. There was a lot of uncertainty, but it was okay. I went through a lot of denial, and we had good family support as far as immediate family support. He has a lot of siblings, so it worked out.
Why did you fall in love with the siblings?
Oh, he's
sorry.
It depends how you cut the family.
Yeah.
But I have a lot. I got 4 stepbrothers, 2 on each side, a half brother, and a full blood brother. So it's a lot.
Thanks. I asked that because Adam is the youngest of 9, and I had 3 singles, 2 doubles, a single, and an extra. And Adam, I don't
That sounds
like
like
ice
a
cream. So I was reflecting this morning of the miracles, one of which before Adam was born, there wasn't the newborn screening. And so I had 4 girls and 3 boys before Adam was born. And interesting, I had 3 miscarriages also. And so, some early on we said, it was just a roll of the dice. And I don't roll dice. I believe that for me, God goes before me, and the protection and care was amazing, and it still is. And I was thinking about meeting new people and all the different dynamics in this room, that everyone has a special need. Some are more obvious than others, and that is, some are physical, some are mental, and some are spiritual. That emptiness inside can affect the way you live. And for me, I have been blessed to have a faith that carries me through each day. But it was very isolating and lonely when Adam was diagnosed. And there were no resources. I remember my husband's an engineer, so he wanted to know how everything worked and all the things. And so, I didn't leave his side. But my husband went up to the computer at the time, and he came back down, and he's like, I can't find anything. And, Cobalamin C is a mixture of Homocystinuria and MMA, methylmalonic acidemia. And so I just encourage you, the reality is no one knows if we have tomorrow. No one is guaranteed tomorrow, with a disease or without a disease. And I just try and make each day count.
And I think, as we get to know Adam and Alex here, you'll see they've really made each day count. They're incredible individuals, and I encourage you to get to know them more after this panel too. Dr. Ale talked about the importance of community and family. For newly diagnosed families, and I promise them we'll get into Alex and Adam, but can you talk about ways, that would have been helpful, like ways you wish you would have asked your family, or ways you did that was really helpful for support during, either in the beginning or, for kids, or, even now as adults. What did you find most helpful? Because I think sometimes, family members want to help, but we don't even know what to ask for. And so, and I think it obviously depends on the individual and what they actually need. So what are some ways that you've been able to lean in on family and community in support to get you through, especially in those beginning years?
Well, as far as our immediate family, I think we created a household that was really welcoming to other kids, and I think that really helped Alex. And as they grew up and they came into the house, and we almost pretty much educated them about homocystinuria, his friends, and we tried to have them develop a sense of respect for it and protection for him. In a sense, not like protecting him from, everything, but just that he has this different thing and you have to respect it, and, he's managing with it, and we would sort of talk to his friends about it, and that really helped, I think. That helped a lot. The creation of having a lot of sort of support people, kids around was really helpful. As far as family, I think on his other side, his father's side. I think cooking for him, that was really, really helpful. Making him things, because when he was born, it was really, you couldn't really go out and get anything, except fruits and vegetables, and that was it. But, his grandmother tried to cook for him. I think that was really, really helpful as far as just support, comfort, and food. It depends on your family, I think. It really depends on how receptive they are to the actual, illness or condition. Because my family said didn't want to really hear about it much. They were they would just deny it, So, I could have tried harder with them, but it really kind of was okay as far as his development. I thought things were going well, and I didn't even bother with that.
I was calculating here. Adam was 3 months old, and I went into the pediatrician, and he looked at me, and he'd known me since Charlotte, and she was number 3. I met him when Charlotte was 1. And I started going over about Adam, and he said, wait a minute. He said, how are you and Gig? That's my husband. And I said, well, our anniversary is this month. And everyone is afraid to watch him. What if he dies on my clock? His wife was a nurse in the office, and he said, I'll talk to Alex. We're coming over to babysit. You're going out today. Talk about gifts. And he said that he had seen way too many divorces and separations because of an ill child. And he did not want to see that happen to us. And I believe God gives you gifts every day. It's just up to us to stop and see them and receive them.
I think that's really good. I think as, we're fearful, and, you're going back to that quote you had, like everyone else wanted to put Adam in the trouble, you didn't. And, being open and willing to receive help, I think is so important. Even as an adult, sometimes I struggle with that just because it's easy to, I need to control everything, but you can't. And even when you try your hardest, you can't. And so it is definitely important. Families with rare disease do face divorce rates. That's a statistical fact. And so it's important you do find friends, family, people that you can trust and lean on to help you so you can still, maintain your relationship, your marriage. We don't really talk about that. That could be like a whole other Dr. Allen session. You do another phenomenal job. I want to switch over to Adam and Alex here and talk to you guys a little bit. We talked to your parents about what it was like in the beginning. And I was so much older when I was diagnosed. Like I have the before and the after. So it was, for me, it was very clear when I had an idea of what homocystinuria was, just because I was already 10 when I had my diagnosis. But can you talk to us a little bit about when did you realize you had homocystinuria, and when did you first start getting comfortable talking to people? I feel like there's typically a long gap for myself, even though I was diagnosed when I was 10. It wasn't until my blood clot in 2009. So it was more than a decade, well past a decade actually, that I felt comfortable sharing that with others. And it's only because I realized I had to, or I was going to end up back in that same boat. So can you talk a little bit about that, Alex?
So I don't remember a time being told that I have this or a time before this. It was just something that was understood from a young age that I can not eat certain foods, and there are bad consequences to that. As I got older, I looked up stuff for myself and figured out the real reality of those consequences. But I will say that I wasn't raised in a way that was, you're different and here's why. And I don't think that would have been good for me, and I don't feel that way. I think that I think it's a great thing to talk openly about the stress, anxiety, and mental health aspect of having a rare disease a lot, and especially amongst this community with people who understand that kind of thing. I don't think that it needs to define you. I think for most of my childhood and teenage years, for sure, I didn't really feel like talking about it, and I think that's fine. I think that most kids probably don't want to talk about it, and that parents should really allow kids not to if they don't want to, and I think that's a key thing. As using Dr. Howell's kind of thing as a template where he said, hope breeds hope. I love that. But also fear breeds fear, and anxiety breeds anxiety. And the more you worry about something, the bigger it gets, I think. That isn't to say don't talk about it and don't express yourself and have these feelings, but I think dwelling on things to an extent doesn't help. You need to forget about certain things and go forward and move into the world, because as you were saying, tomorrow's not promised. We're all outcasts to an extent. We all need to find our people in our community. And just because I can't eat a hamburger, the struggle is very similar to someone who feels different for a completely different reason. So I found my people in different ways. There was very little of a community back then. I think this room here is a testament to you and a few other people that have really created this, and it's amazing. I think we should applaud Danae and but there was no internet, for that. There was no place you could look, and some people really, really need that. I really didn't need that. I just needed to go, I don't want to call it denial, but just go forward into what saved me, which was punk rock and roll, music, hip hop, art, and anything that I could turn the volume up and not think about a constant fear of anxiety, stroke, heart attack, I'm not going to go through all of the symptoms, but yeah, I mean...
Can I add something to that?
Yeah.
Let's see what I was going to say. Yeah, I think that you have to take your child's lead. So when he was little, all we kind of did was sort of make sure that he had his formula, stayed on his diet, and told him that if he does that, he'll be healthy. That's pretty much what we did when he was very little. And then I think as he got older, we just sort of took his lead in that if he'd ask a question that was really hard to answer because it might produce anxiety, I would answer it, but I would answer it in a sort of, not a vague way because that produces more anxiety, I think, but I would sort of just tell him that this is what could happen, and if you stay on your diet, kids are doing really well. And that's pretty much how it went. And he always lived a life of real urgency because he had homocystinuria. And so he didn't have any problem moving forward, not thinking about it, denying it. And then he would have moments of real anxiety about it, and just had to sort of calm him down, even when he was little. And then he could move on, And I think that it's a balance, it's a real balance, and everything is a balance, right? So it was a balance between producing anxiety. I mean, he had so much anxiety when we were running around with a spoon trying to get his formula into him. And like all of that was enough anxiety. We didn't really have to talk about it. It was, but I think it's a balance. You have to figure out how much your kid really wants to know. And if they really want to know a lot, I mean, they can find it, but when they find it, you want to explain it too. They find it on the internet. Now, then there was no internet for that until he grew older, but now they find things, and the information has to be, I think, really explained because that can produce anxiety. So really, I think you have to take a kid's lead on almost everything, but especially that. If they're asking questions, you answer them as best you can. And if they're not asking questions, just let it go. That's it.
I just want to add one more quick thing. And the information you have there is nothing certain, That's dated, some of it. It's very dated. And to go back to Dr. Al's hero that he met, her early inspiration, who was June, I think her name was, that was the first person he saw that was 36 and living all right. That's me. Like when we were kids, there was no one who could love me.
When he was born, there was a kid who was 11, I think. 11.
Who was treated from newborn screening.
From newborn screening.
But there was no one from newborn screening that was 36.
Yeah. And when it wasn't even done, newborn screening. Right? So when he was
wasn't even
born,
discovered.
He lived in New If he was lucky. If I delivered in Connecticut, there was no newborn screening in Connecticut.
Yeah.
So it was a different world. And,
yeah.
I just wanted to add, one of the things is I think helping your child find language to help them understand it. So if they are asking questions, but also creating an environment where they're not scared to. Because if they're having a lot of anxiety, they might not ask questions because they're so scared. So putting it in a way, and one of the things I think about the materials we've created is it's important for people to be aware of symptoms that can happen and the ways it can affect us. Keywords can. And what we have always at the bottom, there's one of our teen transition to adulthood resource, I shouldn't say teen, because transition starts well before teenage years. But it's, these symptoms may occur or it's more like, if you are diagnosed early and follow your treatment, these things won't. It's phrased in such a way, and I think that's the important thing. It's like, do what you're supposed to do. We mitigate risk. And I think that's the one really is important to impress. Is like, you can have a really normal life. You can travel across the ocean. Like Adam, you can be a rock star like Alex, and do all these things if you just do what you're supposed to. I mean, there's lots of people who take medicine for all these different things, so it's really not any different. But I know you won't talk if I ask, so I'm going to pick on it here. Can you tell us when you started feeling comfortable? I mean, you've met so many people around the country and around the globe now, and being able to share, but when did you start feeling comfortable sharing that you have Cobalamin C?
That's actually a very, very good question today. It was actually, well, first of all, I used to help out with the football team. And their athletic trainers back when I was in middle school and high school. And so every Thursday night we went out to dinner. So that's when I just got used to sharing with people about the condition I have. And yes, I have a low protein diet, but I'm not any different than you. It's just adjusting to that normalcy.
Thank you. that's part of the book too. So,
Hey, if you want to learn a bunch about, if you want to learn, you can just
read the book.
Read the book. It's like
We'll make it easy for you with him up here though.
It's like I love talking to people, but I'm not used to talking in front of all these people, and also whenever I am, I don't have a presentation that I'm sharing, so this is totally new.
It's okay. We're all here together. You're in a group. One of the big, I think, fears for parents in the process of letting go and allowing other people into our lives is that idea of all the medications we take, the formula, the low protein diet. It's scary. And even as an adult, I still have a hard time trusting other people. But can you talk a little bit about, Adam, you've traveled to a different country, I'm sure Alex, you have too. Can you talk a little bit about how you manage your medications and when you started managing them on your own, about how old you were and how that looks?
I honestly don't remember when I started managing them on my own. It was probably middle school, high school, and then anytime that I travel, especially going through airports and security, I always just tell them, hey, this is a rare disease, these meds have to stay with me. And they don't normally give me an issue, especially traveling overseas. One thing I do remember is Danae over here, she reached out to me. They were going on a trip, and they're asking me, how do you navigate going through security with meds? And so I was able to help her out with that.
Yeah, I mean, I've been stopped a lot in a lot of security. Maybe it's just the people I go with. But I got suspicious people with me, and I have a lot of weird stuff in my bag. I remember we went to Germany on our first tour, and we were getting on the train, and these guys were screaming at me in German, and they had this, I was just trying to show them the medical note, and they detained me. That was a little traumatic, but then I had a huge roller bag, because we were going for a month, and this was before I switched to the unflavored HCU gel. I would have the coolers, which made it really easy, but I mean the evolution of the formula is that's a whole panel too, because originally it was just that maximum colander thing that looked like it came from Soviet Union rations in the 80s, and it was super disgusting. Sorry if any of those people from that company are here, but it was the worst. It was only flavored orange, hence the name Alex Orange Drink, and I took that for 10 years, and that was the worst because you couldn't mask that flavor with anything. So when the unflavored thing came, it was like, yes! And then they added fish oil to it, which was a big mistake, sorry. But you couldn't mask the orange flavor, it was so horrible. And you get back to traveling, sorry, I'm digressing. The first time I went away for a long tour, a month, I had those HCU coolers and I had to take 5 of them a day, and that's 30 days, so I don't know if someone who's good at math just does 150, 100, I think it was over 30 days actually. It was somewhere near 200 of those. This big roller bag, and I was getting off. We were taking trains. I was getting off a train somewhere in Germany, and it was like the first transfer from one train to the next, and I was carrying it up a flight of stairs, and the bag just snapped. And Brad just fell down the whole stairs. Oh, they all fell out of the floor. That's how I get around. I picked him up. Basically, I picked him up and put him back in the bag. And it's not easy, but it's not that hard. It's just taking a bunch of stuff. It's that's the burden. It's like, you guys know the weight of like just carrying around stuff. You feel like you can't just get up and leave. That kind of mentally made me feel trapped. Like I can't just go somewhere. And I think that's an important thing to be able to do.
Trying to remember, can't remember the specific language they used. One of our parents, one of our panels, very first panels, they were talking about, there's no just picking up and going. Like, there's so much preparation. Liz, who's I think in our child care zone, she shared an Instagram post at one time, like just to send her son on an overnight with grandma. They had like this massive laundry hamper of food and formula, and so there is a lot. But our parents model for us how to prepare, and those are things that we take with us. I mean, I have, when I was sorting out my pills for this trip, we learn those things by watching our parents do them. So including your kids in that process, I think, is really important. And I'm sure Alex and Adam watched their parents and saw how they navigated those situations, and so they then in turn learned. One of the ways I got to know Adam is when he travels, he goes, Miss Danae, I'm going to this place. Do you know anyone? Give me my shot. But it's been awesome because he's been able to talk to, he's met so many other families with Cobalamin C, and he's been able to still go about his travels, and it's a part of my job I enjoy too, because I get to meet families, and then I hear from them about, their interactions with them, and I'm like, thank you so much. You so inspired me, and I have so much more hope for my family. And so it's really awesome that, and that's not even why I'm traveling. It's not like to go be an ambassador for Cobalamin C. It's to go do his other stuff, but he just happens to get to do those things in the process.
Sorry, one more thing. Like how much of what I was getting at is the evolution of where the medicine's gone. It's easier now. It's so easy. Just take it, throw it in your bag, and you can go and you can do anything. You need a bag. That's what you need to get a bag. For kids who have homocystinuria or growing into young adulthood and adulthood, get yourself a good bag. Take yourself a bag. Or I would just stick the packets in your back pocket, and then you have one big bag and one small bag. You take the big bag with all the stuff, and then the small bag for the day. And that's your friend.
And this
you can go do anything. I go everywhere.
And this is a guy who was completely disorganized as a kid. I mean, it was like a hurricane, really. Every time he walked in the room, and he's so organized now,
So let's go back to Barb and Annette. So, as parents, again, we know, I have a 6-year-old, so thankfully I don't have to navigate the homocystinuria side, but there's typical parent things, and like just helping them become sufficient children, and the teens and adults. It's a lot of work, period. And then it's more so and more at stake. Can you talk about the transition to helping them become independent, especially since executive function is not one of our strong suits with any type of homocystinuria? I know what my brother's was like. He's in here somewhere. Sorry. I know if I don't keep my systems in place, if I don't, keep going back and refreshing and organizing them and keeping them up, easily falls apart. And so can you talk about how you helped build those systems and how you help them transition to become such amazing people that they are?
Well, I have to tell him, Adam. The reality is that if he sees an opportunity for someone else to do it for him, it's all about it. So, thank the Lord that he has older siblings that say, no, Adam, You can do it. As a mom of many, you want to do for your children. I was sharing about Adam and his guide dog. I did not need another thing to do. I really didn't. And as all the older siblings were leaving, and they were taking their dogs out the door, Adam was 18, and he said, "Mom, I need a dog." I'm like thinking, I don't need another dog. But back up 1 minute. Adam, the first time, I'm not kidding, the first time I saw him cry was when our dog died. Cry from emotion, not pain. And I don't remember how old he was, but anyway, fast forward. His mobility instructor said he could benefit by a guide dog. And I was like, he might, but I wouldn't. So, anyway, I give in, get the dog. We've had the dog a short time. We're in Texas visiting my best friend. And if anybody knows Buc-ee's, love Buc-ee's, Adam has to use the bathroom. I said, look, Adam has one speed, and it goes like this. I'm like, he's got to get the dog out, get hooked up, all that. I said, look, leave the dog in the car, I'll take you in. He was like, Mom, and I said, please. So get out, grab hold of his arm, and he can't see the different, it's all one color, the concrete's the same color. There's this tiny little elevation, and I mean little elevation. Of course, his foot hits it. If I had not been holding on to him, boom, he would have landed flat on his face. From that day on, I let him get the dog out. If it takes 15 minutes, we're using 15 minutes to get the dog out. He said, Mom, I can feel that dog lifting up just a bit, and I know there's a step. Society says, run faster, jump higher. And I'm telling you, pause. I take that time when he's taking that dog in and out of the car to pause. Because there is nothing out there that's worth rushing. Nothing.
Thank you. That was speechless. Art, do you have anything that you would like to add in transition or?
Well, I think in the beginning, when they're little, you just micromanage everything, and they don't pay attention to it. And then as they get older, I think that they learn from you doing it, like Danae said. And even though they're not really paying attention, I think they're learning. And then I think that it's the same thing for me, always. I think you take their lead. If they want to do it themselves, you absolutely let them. It's hard to give up the control, but you have to just let them do whatever they want to do, as far as like making their own formula, even if it's a mess, all of that. You just have to listen to them and respect that they know what they need and they know when they can become independent. I think everyone is different. I think some kids, are dying to be independent, and I don't think that you should push it. I don't think that you should force your kid if they're not ready to be making this formula or to be cooking. I think that as they get older, it just becomes really clear with a sort of seamless transition that they want to take over certain tasks. And you just have to trust that they can do it. Might not be perfect, but just have to trust that they can do it and let them go. Yeah, that's what I think. And I think that Alex in particular did have an independence problem. Like he wanted to be independent, but he didn't really want to be independent. You know, he did, but didn't. But it's always been sort of an independence problem. And you know, kids eventually become independent, right? I mean, if you just sort of guide them in the right direction, it doesn't take that much. And then you have to be open enough with your communication, like with, say, like navigating the healthcare system. I mean, that's like impossible for adults, right? You know, once they want to make their own appointments at the doctor, and they want to go by themselves, you know, that's hard. For me, that was really hard. I wanted to go. I wanted to hear what they said. But, you know, if they want to do it, you have to let them do it. And you have to give up the control. And then, but you have to be, I think, open enough with your communication with your kid to allow them to ask for help when they need it, even as an adult. You know, I ask for help a lot when I need it. So, yeah, I think if they regress and they can't, like, deal with Oxford insurance or whatever, you know, you can help them again. And that's okay. You know, I think it's okay to help and when they need it and not push too hard.
One other thing, you know, we don't do things perfectly. No one's perfect. But I was enlightened by one of my children that it's not all about Adam. Please don't forget your other children. They are just as valuable and loved as the one with the special needs. I went to my first special needs prayer group years ago, and I walked in and I said, so which child do you want me to start with first? Because they all have special needs.
Right now, as this is taking place after Ale is in our kids' zone doing a sibling workshop. So they definitely have unique needs. And I think it's important we make time for them and check in with them as well.
I think that's really, really important, you know, and maybe we ignored it somewhat, I'm not sure. But I think that, you know, you have to really be aware of your siblings. Really be aware, because living with a sibling with chronic illness is another issue completely. And it comes with all kinds of mental health things, guilt, and I think there's a lot of guilt that they have, and they feel that, you know, why isn't it me? And then they don't want it to be them, but they, you know, there's a lot of conflict. And I think you have to be really careful.
I want to back up a little bit because Bartke touched on medical appointments. Transitioning healthcare is a nightmare for metabolics. The healthcare system has not aged with us well, so a lot of us are seen in pediatric clinics still. It's a really fun time, and because we're clearly not children, but nevertheless, we still need to go. And so, as our needs change, you know, we are expected to go into these appointments independently. There's a lot of patients who end up not going to see their doctors regularly, but also as we age, our problems change too. So I'm wondering, Adam and Alex, if you have, sorry, I'm trying to read my notes here. As we get older, what are strategies to get the most out of your appointments? And I think... Confess. Yeah,
Confess to what? I didn't know I had an independence problem either. I would, as I became an adult, I'd rather go to the doctor alone. I don't want to fill out forms ever again. I hate forms. I think it's a lot to ask of someone who's chronically sick, and then, I don't know, you're faced a lot of the times in hospitals and, like you said, pediatric department. You go to places where you just feel like kind of an alien, and no one really understands.
Are you the patient?
Yeah.
Where's the patient?
It's very strange because there's no model for growing up with this yet. So yeah, I don't know what to say other than it's strange, and I've been on the phone with insurance companies for probably collectively like 3 years of my life, and she's probably been for 10 years, there's always problems, there's always issues like, I don't know, I started calling insurance companies in my 20s probably, and they stopped like delivering my formula and kicked me off like every 3 months, then you gotta switch. I think I'm preaching to the choir here, we all know what's going on. But it sucks. And did I keep my appointments? What do you mean?
Did you go into the doctor, or did you just like see it?
I did stop going a lot. I stopped going to the doctor every month for sure. Well, when I was really little, they took me every week when I was first year, and then every month I'd go to it was easier for me because I lived in New York City, so in Brooklyn you go to the city, but I know a lot of you have to drive like 2 hours to go to some place, and it's like crazy. But I used to go every month, and then when it was in my own hands, I used to go every couple of years. I go a couple times a year. But like the band was touring, and we were doing so much other crazy things that
That's not an easy thing. That's not an easy thing to watch. It's not an easy thing to watch, right?
Suzanne.
You just have to let it
Well,
out.
at a certain point in my life, I was like, my old doctors retired, and they left. And then there were these new doctors, some of them who knew stuff, some of them who didn't really know that much, and I had to explain to them certain things. And then they bring in like a bunch of like fellows to just kind of stare at you. Just like look at you. There's like 10 people every time you go to the doctor. And so I don't know, like to do that. It wasn't fun. And I know what I need to do. I need to keep my protein level down. So what else are they going to tell you? I mean, it's good to check up and go, wow, maybe I haven't been doing so great, but the constant thought, it doesn't leave your head. That's more important to me. Like, if you know that you just need to stay on your diet, that's what you need to know. And you need to never forget that, even though the long-term effects, you don't see them immediately because they're long-term, and they're in the distance. So when something's in the distance in life, you just go, oh, it'll be all right. I'll just smoke a cigarette. I'm not going to have a heart attack. I'll smoke another one. I'm not going to get cancer. And then, then you do. And you have to deal with that. But it's the same with food and eating. Like, it's almost, every time I talk about this, like, I say this analogy, but it reminds me of like an eating disorder where it's all about control, and what you put in your body is monitored, and that's in control. You have to count every single little thing, and that constant pressure that's just right here, all over. That doesn't leave you if you've been raised and you know what the consequences are and how important it is to stay on your diet. As an an adult, it's kind of hard to go get checkups every second.
And there are going to be times where, your child probably won't stay on a diet. They'll go off, their levels will be really high. That happened often, like during middle school. Just during middle school.
Yes, but wait, let me interject.
Okay.
Kids nowadays are a lot less rebellious, I feel like. People are doing like what they need to do. I was looking up to Gen X, and we're part of the self-destructive generation. And everything's about self-help and self-health, which is good. But our heroes were Kurt Cobain and Tupac and Biggie, and these guys really imploded. And I think there was some glamour in that.
It wasn't
I had
until
to do what I had to do. I had to try pizza. I'm from New York. I try pizza. With cheese.
So when we would go to the doctor, his levels would be high, and she would say to him, "Are you on a diet?" And then of course he would say, "Yeah.
Yeah.
I did everything right, I did it all right." She'd say, "Come back again." It would be high again. This is when he went on cysteine finally in middle school, because it just came out.
Yeah, it just came out.
So, and then years later, his friend would tell me he eats bologna sandwiches at his house.
It was a very small period. But it was a very small period. I had to try stuff. And
So there will be that.
I don't recommend it if anybody's out there who's got HCU, who's younger. I really don't recommend it. It will take years off of your life. It's not worth it. Bologna's not good.
And I'll tell you, as parents, peer tactics are like the number one approach. I feel like most parents want to approach things like, if you don't do this, this is going to happen. We know what's going to happen. And unfortunately, it's not like a peanut allergy where, it's going to happen immediately. And kids are used to, we look at kids now, and they're so used to instant gratification. Well, it's kind of that instantaneous thing anyways. They're looking for that instantaneous reaction. Unfortunately, we don't get that with homocystinuria. So all you can do is be ready to have those conversations when they're ready for them, and keep offering them things that are good for them. I know Adam and Alex have both, and myself, have all had health stuff within the past couple of years. And, these problems evolve and change with us. It's important for us to leave those lines of communication open with our clinic, because I'm sure that changed your relationship with your metabolic team. Adam, that probably changed, I know it did for you. But you eventually get to this point where you really appreciate your metabolic team, because, your primary care doctor can't help you with things, or they, are trying to treat you like I don't want to say normal person, but there's some things that just happen as we age, and some of them are actually related to homocystinuria. Because we don't have an answer about what 30s and 40s clearly looks like with homocystinuria, we're navigating those things for the person. And then there's things that happen unrelated that do affect homocystinuria. So there's new challenges that we are facing, and I don't know if either of you feel comfortable talking about, how that affected your relationship with homocystinuria, even though it wasn't exactly homocystinuria, but...
Sure, let me just say what we're getting at here. So I don't know if anyone knows this, but a year ago, almost to the date, I was diagnosed with a rare type of cancer called adenoid cystic carcinoma. T4, which means it was in the tissue of my bone and in my head, a very large tumor in my face and at the back of my skull base. So, that was bad. That sucked. So that put things into perspective again. I mean, I think I always have had a perspective that was different from people around me. And I think, as Dr. Al touched on as well, there's that perspective shift if you have something rare and life-threatening. Cancer put it into hyperspeed. It was just like, okay, let's turn this little knob up to 500 million, see how loud that can go. And that was really intense. But perspective, and I lost my train of thought a little bit, but that whole experience kind of made Homocystinuria feel really small and way less scary. And it helped me get through it because it was like training wheels for this big, horrible, really impending, it's the comet coming at the Earth and it's about to, on the dinosaurs, you know? But then it switched gears. We hit it with radiation and 35 days of chemotherapy, and as of Monday, my last scan, I'm good. So yeah, I don't know if these two things are connected. I don't think they are. I think it was another rare thing, but it's just more questions rattling in your brain and more uncertainty, and another rare disease that is probably 1 in a million or something like that. So I'm going for, I think I'm going to stop it there with rare disease. People call me the Michael Jordan of rare disease because I got 2 right now and they're stacking up, but I don't want to be known as that totally. Yeah, I don't know, it's perspective, and I think the ability to just keep going forward even when things are, you're allowed to feel fear, and you're allowed to express it, and you're allowed to think things are scary and talk about it, but don't live it, and don't let it be your narrative. Don't let it control you and become you, because then you're just a broken record about and you tell it to yourself, and it becomes a story you have to believe. You don't have to. You're just a human being living, and you can do anything. That's how I live, and that's how I think. And I think that partially because of her, in a big way because of her, that I was raised that way, and him, and my father, and my stepmother, and all my brothers, and all these people. So the people around you, you know, we do lift each other up. Community, and I think as an adult that became my whole life, starting community spaces, starting venues, living with people that are doing like-minded artists, and I think it's just really important. And I don't want to contradict what you said, but you should pause, and you should pause for yourself and really take the time to take care of yourself. I need to do that more. I don't pause. I only fast forward.
Yeah.
It's a problem.
Let me just add one thing, just as a parent. I think that because it helped me as a child, to turn things around when things were very dark. I think that more than I spoke to his siblings, I spoke to him about, you know, the moments of, you know, just how precious a smile is, or moments of a relationship or a glance, you know. And I think that maybe because he had this, he was more responsive than the others. Maybe that's why I spoke to him more about it. But I think that's part of the perspective. I think that, you know, you've got to teach your child how to live and turn things around when they get into a really dark place. I think that's important with any chronic illness.
Yes.
And with anything.
Yes.
I want to save time for questions from our audience, because I'm sure, I know just kind of this, when this was included on our talks, I have so many questions for them. So I'm sure some of you do. So I'm going to stand up and come around with a microphone, and then you guys can ask. So if anyone has questions for Adam, Alex, Barb, or Annette, just raise your hand and I'll come around.
No one wants to ask the first question. It's always really scary. There we go.
Okay, hold on. I'll start with Lori, and then I'll head over there.
Alex, what's the name of your band and how many access
perfect. Perfect. Probably the best question ever. It's easy. So the band is that I've been in with my brothers since we were kids, and yeah, my brother and my stepbrother. Our parents did get divorced, and I'm great. I'm happy it happened. It's fine because my family my family's huge, my family, you're all part of my family now, and it keeps growing, and it's, I think, sorry, the name of my band is the So Glows. I'm in it with my brothers and stepbrother since we were kids. I'm on a tangent, but I think what we did was we took that negative situation as kids and we made it positive. We started a band, and I think that's what my solo thing, Alex Orange Drink, is about as well. Orange Drink is the medication my slang for the maximum when it was only orange. Back before all you kids with your fancy fish oil and all that. It was only orange, and it was Alex Orange Drink, and that's another example of negative to positive energy. It's just, this thing is going to be, I'm different, I'm a freak, I'm something different. No, that's my superpower. I'm Alex Orange Drink. That's my, and I think you have to do that. You have to take your negatives and make them positives all the time. And so Alex Orange Drink, it's on Instagram, it's on Facebook, the So Glows, that's no W, SOSOGLOS, and I have some stuff that I brought, records here, if anybody's interested. And I'm joining the band Bright Eyes this fall for a tour. It's a new record that I worked on. That was fun, a little promo.
So I just had a general question in regards to kind of getting off track when it comes to your diet. You're saying, so whether it was a week or a month or several months, how did that change how you felt, how your body felt? Did you notice anything from that? For me? Or either of you, yeah.
I didn't hear the beginning of it. Sorry, was that?
So I was going to say, if you're saying that maybe you were getting off track on your diet sometimes, right?
Okay,
whether
off
it
track on
be
the
weeks,
diet. Months,
whatever it may have been. How did that affect you physically? Did you feel anything from that, or?
I don't know. I probably lost a lot of. I think I was in middle school. I was in 7th grade. Probably the worst grade, 7th grade, I think, in general. It's just, you're just very, it sucks, yeah. 8th grade's where I liked 8th grade. But I was overeating. I was a punk rocker. I was trying to just do bad things for my body. It was dumb. And I definitely felt probably more out of it, but who knows? Because when you're in 7th grade, you're hormones are going off the wall, and you're always chubby, and you're you're just weird in 7th grade. You feel off. Your body's adjusting to all these things in general. So what I'm getting at is that this is a conversation that's very hard to tell when certain things are because of HCU or because you're a human going through puberty, not constantly going through puberty, but in that situation, I was going through that, or going through life, do I have high blood pressure because I'm off my diet, or do I have high blood pressure because I'm stressed about World War III?
I was going to mention here really quick, there was a conversation I was involved with a few parents, and it's interesting because most patients can't tell when their levels are high. Mm-hmm. It takes a different level of self-awareness. It wasn't until my levels went from 80 and then to 30 and then now into their 20s that now I can tell when they're high, because brain fog is a totally different thing.
Brain fog.
Yeah.
Maybe it was some brain fog, or feeling a little more out of it, or
in
erratic
middle school,
energy.
You're kind of self-absorbed and narcissistic, so
Exactly.
you're not
And I'm
really
like that anyway,
self-aware.
I want to address that for a minute. So Adam was, my son his brother played football, and anyway, he was at the football games. And pretty much everyone knew Adam couldn't have protein. To them, that's meat, for hot dogs, whatever. Well, he started sleeping a lot and lethargic. And I'm like, call the doctor, and I'm like, I can't get him up, can't get him to school, whatever. She said, well, write down exactly what he's consuming. Come to find out, he would go up to the concession stand, and they were giving him these huge soft pretzels.
Oh, those have a lot of protein.
No one knew.
Who knew?
So good.
I know. They're
So
like 13
you
grams.
never know. Always ask questions. When you start to see something that's off, ask questions.
I'm going to add one comment here, and then I'm going to hand it over to Melanie. And that was the thing, is most parents can tell when something's off with their kids. As kids, we don't want to acknowledge that our parents know us better than we know ourselves, but they do. They say, the conversation I was having with the parents is they're like, my child's exceptionally moody and irritable, and the smallest thing will set them off, the irrational, and so I think parents can recognize it better. So, if you're questioning, what are my child's levels? It's okay to have that conversation with the doctor. Don't ask your kid. They're not going to want to hear it, because we never want to admit we're wrong. But it is worth, if you feel like they're sleeping extra or they're extra irrational. I was that teenager. It's okay. It's okay to have those conversations with your doctor and see if, there's something more that can be done.
One thing that Alex used to complain about, and I don't know if it had anything to do with levels, was that he felt really slow, Remember?
Yeah, I still feel slow, but I think that
But
what we need is that home test.
That home
So we need the
monitoring
home
system.
monitor test so we
That's
can
gonna
see
change
where the
things.
levels are. Let's go to the future. How do we get it done? I mean, let's do it. That's amazing.
We'll have Melanie go.
So I don't know if you guys are comfortable asking this in front of your parents, but I'm always curious to hear, now that you're grown up, your memories of being children, and if there's certain things that your parents may have did or didn't do that either made you feel really good about yourself and having this disorder, or maybe made you struggle a little bit more.
It's a good question. I have to think about it. It's such a good question. But yeah, I think
when we
all of them
when we went out to eat, that was bad for you.
bad for me. I don't like when she orders for me at a restaurant. I really dislike that. I like to order. But I think what I was saying before is I wasn't raised like, I think the way that I was taught that it was like, this is just something you got to do and you're fine. You're fine. That was the attitude from all of the parental figures around me. It was like, you're going to be all right. And you're just like, I don't know. I think it was just an attitude. It's hard to think of a full, there are a lot of examples actually, but not being treated so special, not coddled, but taken care of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adam, what about you? What do you feel like was something that your mom or your family did that helped or didn't help? I mean, sometimes help is better because then we can share that.
For sure. That's a good question, Danae. For some reason, I just cannot seem to think of anything. But one thing I've noticed is my oldest sister. It might just be her being the oldest, but I felt like it was much harder to navigate because she was gone. She lived in Oregon for 10 years, and so that was So when she came back, it was so hard to listen to her because she thought she was Mama Bear, and she wouldn't let me just learn from my mistakes versus and then after learning from those mistakes, then do better next time.
Yeah, so that was one of the things that wasn't helpful, was having another mother hen.
Well, for sure, but also whenever, my guess is whenever you have a family the size of mine, you're going to at least get one of the siblings that's going to be like that.
I'll tell you, come from a big family too. There's always more opinions than you ever want. It doesn't matter homocystinuria or not. They always have an opinion. And so, but definitely, and I think that's one of the things as parents is, to also, we want our other children to look out for, us and our condition, but also it is not your job to mother them and make sure, they're taking their medicine, they're doing things this exact way. Like, your job is to be their sibling and also protect them and just let them be that sibling, because they already have a mom and a dad. They don't need another mom and a dad, and it will be better for their relationship, and it will also be better for them. So
That's
I
true.
think Carson had a question here.
Oh, wait, one more thing that I want to add. One thing that my parents let me do: turn the music up all the way and play fucking loud. Just play loud. Like, I wouldn't, if I had kids right now, I wouldn't let them do. That's so annoying. We weren't good. We were really bad, and they let me be really loud all the time. It's great.
And just to add one more thing, I think one thing that I probably did really wrong was sometimes I think he would come and he'd want to complain or talk about some of the symptoms he had. And you always want to kind of fix them, or you want to figure out is it really real, or is it a problem, or do I have to bring him to the doctor? Or I think sometimes, then he'd just forget about them. But if I got too involved in the conversation, sometimes you have to know when to just let them just talk and just listen, and then if it happens again, he comes back to you, then you do something. But the first time, it's kind of just a venting thing, I think, about, him wanting to tell you, I have this, and I have this problem, and I have that problem, and this problem.
She's a doctor, too. I don't just vent to everyone.
Yeah. So, but no, kids do that, right? Yeah.
So this is for all of you guys. I would say, what has been some challenges for people with homocystinuria becoming more individualized? Because, when you guys were teenagers, you had your parents and family to rely on. But when you get older and now that you're in your 20s, how has some challenges been with being older, and how have you been able to conquer those?
I think there are different challenges. I think the challenges of being a little bit older with this is the uncertainty of being at the forefront of something like this. There are some examples of people doing great, and then there are not that many. So that's scary. It becomes scarier as you get older in life, I think, in general. You're closer to the end of life than you were at the beginning. So that's kind of scary in general, but you have to just, I had something that I was going to say. The second thought took over. The conversation when you sit down to eat for the rest of your life with a new person, and you have to explain this, is annoying. And you have to do it over and over and over again every single time you meet a new person, and they see you pulling some white powder out of the, not that white powder, you guys from the 80s. Yeah, so you pull the cystidane out and you put it into your drink, or drink an orange drink, and you think that you have to explain it to everyone and that it's your responsibility. But it's actually not. You don't have to. You can just say you don't want to talk about it. And that's annoying, but it's just something. As you get older, I think that becomes more of your burden rather than maybe your family's when you were younger. And I think, that's it. Just like the uncertainty and that's how I would say that.
I'm going to turn to Adam.
How'd you get over there?
No, that's okay. I'm going to turn to Adam. Just popped up over here. I'm going to turn to Adam. Adam, what is a challenge? And, I feel like you do an amazing job at finding ways. Dr. Ale talked about the creativity that we are driven to have, to navigate our situations. What is a challenge that you have found, and what is a way that you have overcome it? And then I'm going to have our last question asked. So I was just rephrasing Carson's question.
Thank you. That's actually a very, very good question. It's just some of the challenges I've noticed as I've become an adult, especially like with travel, with even just with transportation, trying to figure out, since I can't drive, like, how do I get around? But I feel like overall, I'm so thankful that I have all these friends and family in this community that can help me out. Like, let's say, just like what Danae was saying about the B12 shot, if I'm traveling alone, I can call her up and say, who do we know in our community that can help me out? And so definitely there's definitely a challenge, but also seeing how I've been able to overcome some of those challenges with this great community here.
Annette, do you have something you want to add?
I just want to say that Adam started during the Storm Sandy. My daughter went out on the porch, and she had a canvas, and she started painting. And Adam goes out. Now, he hadn't painted before. And he found a piece of board, and he starts painting. Well, that painting, we call it Sandy, but it hangs in my sister's house, and in a very prominent area that everyone can see it. But we didn't know Adam could paint. I mean, he is legally blind and has some color problem, whatever. It was beautiful. And then he continued painting. And I encourage you to try anything. You're only a failure if you don't try. I'm amazed at all the things that we are able to do, but we tell ourselves we can't before we even get started. So Carson, I think the more that you expose yourself to different things and different people, your community will continue to shift and it will grow.
Took the words out of my mouth.
Well, I think, you know what, we're actually at time. And so I think, and we're at such a perfect spot, I don't think we could have ended on a better note. And I think that's really the theme is, letting your kids try things and, not being afraid to embrace them and meet them there and helping them navigate those new situations. And so I'd like to give a round of applause to our panel.